Once you vaccinate these animals, and these animals feed human beings meat, milk is affected. These vaccines are actually mRNA vaccines that they're injecting in the animals. Once you inject an mRNA, it doesn't die. It goes to the milk, it goes to the meat. So in turn, you're vaccinating the human beings through the kind of foods that they are consuming. If WHO is going to roll out a vaccine, but they've gotten 80% of funding on that project by the company that actually manufactures that vaccine, what does that tell you? Conflict of interest. This WHO that we trust is actually killing human beings in the name of health. The biggest scam in humanity was the COVID vaccine. Many people are not able to connect the dots, but you can connect these dots. You can connect the agriculture bills, the GMO, you can
the vaccine,
you can actually connect them to one person. Bill Gates is the one single owner of most GMO patents. So when we talk about GMO, it is him and his foundation.
Why is Bill Gates always so interested in Africa and Africa matters?
He's a psychopath. I'll just tell you. He's a representation of the globalists, the people, the proponents of the New World Order that are so engrossed in ruling the world. They are so engrossed in controlling humanity that feel they are actually gods in their own space.
Why do our politicians act as zombies, as if they don't know these things? And what are they doing to protect their citizens?
The love of money, especially in this country, is the cause of all our problems. The love that our politicians have for money. A Kenyan politician mention the money and they'll push a bill that they know is coming to finish the people.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi, and obviously when you see my guest in studio, you know it's about to get real. She always makes sure that she gets to educate us, and it goes with our theme of what we are trying to do here. We are learning, unlearning, and relearning. She'll just be talking to us about why some of our cash crops are no longer there, and some of the treaties that were signed to make sure that we stay in that position, and also just challenge us, because I always say one of the things that we must do when we hear or listen to these shows, we must be able to go, pull back kidogo, and you ask yourself a couple of questions. How did we get here? All right. I'm about to let her introduce herself and walk us through this conversation. But before that, Watu Wangu wa Kings Developers Limited, thank you so much for always coming through. It's been an incredible year of doing this journey together. Mumeuza apartments. I'm happy about that. And if you are looking also into owning maybe one, their details are on the screen, or walk to their building at Prism Towers, Upper Hill, and tell them Lynn ametutuma tuangalie nyumba zenyu. What do you have? And also to say thank you so much to my incredible team that gets to put this work together. You get to see me in front of the camera, but it takes an entire tribe here to be able to put this work together. And not forgetting you guys for getting us to 1.1 million subscribers. I do appreciate you. Mimi nafunga mwaka na furaha, by the way. I won't lie. So thank you for subscribing. If you've not, please consider subscribing. It's very free and it goes a long way into making sure our work gets to reach a wide range of audience. And of course, without further ado, please allow me to let my girl today introduce herself. Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Looking amazing as always.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
It's a beautiful morning. It's a very beautiful morning.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
And to see you after how long?
It's been months too.
It's been months.
I think 2 months.
It's 2 months
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
We appreciate.
Thank you.
We appreciate what you're doing.
And so are you. You are such a voice.
Thank you.
And let me tell you something. I drew a lot of inspiration from you.
Oh.
I will be at X because I follow you there.
Yeah.
And I see how bold you are.
Yeah.
And I see how much, the way you are trying to educate the public.
Yeah.
in conversations people would not touch on, right?
True,
Things that could get anyone in trouble.
Yeah.
But you are out there dedicating yourself to making sure that we continue receiving this information. So I really do appreciate
Thank you. Someone has to do it.
Someone has to.
We cannot be, I realize information is power. And once you're able to deliver information to people, credible, true information, you're liberating those people. Because I remember in doing my research, and I learned they control your health, they control your food, they control education, they control your information. So information is very powerful. So that's why mainstream media, social media, whatever form of media is a very important tool, either in enslaving people or actually liberating people. So when I have my hands on information, I want to put it out there.
Beautiful. I know we are about to get into a beautiful conversation, thought-provoking rather. But for anyone that is catching you for the very first time on the show, could you please introduce yourself and tell them what you do?
My name is Mary Kadomiriongo. I am a farmer. I'm very passionate about farming. I'm very passionate about production. I am also the convener of Kilimo cha Haki. And Kilimo cha Haki is an organization that is going out there to push for good policies in agriculture, good policies in food production, protection of our food sovereignty and our food security. So this is basically a lobby group that links the farmer to the policymakers and makes sure everything is being done there is actually as the farmer at heart. And apart from that, I'm a business person, bills got to be paid, and we do these things every day.
Every single day.
Yeah,
so you see why I say I don't take it for granted when you make time to just come on the show, because I know it takes a lot of your time. But moving on, before we even touch on our conversation of the day, are we vaccinating our cows?
Ah, Jesus Christ. No, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. If you have the smallest doubts about something, don't do it until you're sure. Because this whole animal vaccination program is shrouded in mystery. I had a journalist calling me the other day and they were asking me for information. And you look at what the president says. The president says we need to vaccinate our cows because we need good quality meat for export. What else did he say? Basically, he talked about export meat. And then I went back to check on the Ministry of Agriculture and in Livestock, and they talk about vaccination against foot and mouth. The information is not adding up. The information through the PSA is one thing, the president says another thing. And when there's such doubts, then you sit back. You sit back until you're very sure about what exactly is going on. We are not anti-vaxxers, as people may say, but we scrutinize information to understand this information. Once they are rolling out, and actually, when there is, I'm a dairy farmer. I keep cows for a living. When we have an outbreak, they come many times. We have foot and mouth. We have rumpy skin that affects the skin of the cows, can even make your cow go blind. They do not happen like in the entire country at once. That's not the characteristic of animal diseases. It might happen, say, in Garissa, Ishe, it happens in another region. So you cannot, in a whole blanket, vaccinate the entire nation against a particular disease. So me, I'm telling people, don't. And another question, Lynn, we need to look at. Where is this vaccine coming from? Who is funding this project?
Him.
Who?
Him.
The question, you see, so many, I tell people, do not shy away from critical thinking. So we are nationally vaccinating our animals, domestic animals. You already know this government is cash crunched already. We are struggling with everything. You can see even the counties have not received their money. So, and the priority is vaccinating what?
Cows.
But let's just think. Where did you get the money to vaccinate the cows from?
Not even just the money.
Yeah.
I'm really fascinated with why Bill Gates is always talking about let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's vaccinate this. Like, Man, I honestly try to see the reasoning, but I can't. All I see is malice.
We have to open our eyes. And I want, you see, let me tell you, I'm sorry to say this. What our education system did, our education system is a colonial education system. Purely. Before 844, the 844, the CBC, our entire education system is a colonial education system. And what this education system did, Lynn, was programming us to accept anything downloaded to us without questioning. That is what the colonial masters did. You're made to, don't question. I've said you do this, you go ahead and do it. But now we have to ask ourselves questions. General, simple questions. And I'm asking Kenyans, when something, your intuition tells you, oh, this doesn't sound right, investigate. Think. Do not suffer from low self-esteem, because that's what I call it. It's a low self-esteem where you think your thinking process is not up to par. Now, we are being told to vaccinate. Who is funding our vaccination programs? You've seen Bill Gates has literally moved into this country. He's moved in every little thing. He himself, of course, they talk about methane emissions. They're talking about cow's fat a lot. That's why I'm telling you that the information out there is really confusing. The Bill Gates and the proponents of the carbon emissions, they say cows are producing too much methane. And this vaccination is a vaccination to reduce the methane. The president says another whole thing. The Ministry of Livestock, because even them, they're not even convinced about what they're saying. But it begs to answer a lot of questions. So you're vaccinating the cows, okay? And the goats and the sheep. Have you vaccinated the buffaloes? The elephants? They are all
the zebras.
Herbivores. They're all zebras. They're all herbivores. The process of digestion for domestic animals is the same as the wild animals. So if your reasoning is we want to reduce methane, I think you're lying. I think you're not telling us the truth.
What do you think could be the hidden truth here?
Let me tell you, Lynn, without even hiding or mincing words, they want to affect the quality of the foods that we consume. Once you vaccinate these animals, and these animals feed human beings meat, milk is affected. These vaccines are actually mRNA vaccines that they're injecting in the animals. Once you inject an mRNA, it doesn't die. It goes to the milk, it goes to the meat. So in turn, you're vaccinating the human beings through the kind of foods that they are consuming. There's a conversation many Kenyans, Lynn, we've not had. And I am hoping you're going to get the confidence to have that conversation. It is the COVID vaccine conversation. That's a conversation we've not had. I think it's too much a hot potato.
Not only is it a hot potato, you see what we tried to do with Dr. Ahome?
Yes.
When he came to talk to us about, the vaccines and why we should actually first step back and ask what is happening.
Yes.
I feel like COVID vaccine is inakujanga na emotions mingi sana, but people don't want to talk about it contextually. Like, can we put it here and say, what was this? Where did it come from?
Exactly.
And what have been the side effects?
And what was wrong with it?
Yes.
There is nothing. That's what I'm telling you. We have been programmed not to question. And we have to get ourselves out of that space. As we're speaking, Lynn, in the US, people have gone to court and proved that this was not a vaccine. It was an mRNA injected in people. People lost their jobs. People have died. Their health have... And I don't judge people that took the vaccines. I totally do not judge the people. People were whipped into doing it. The government whipped, the religious whipped, your employer whipped. People actually sometimes had no choice. They had to make a choice between a vaccine and a job. No judgment to anyone who took the vaccine.
Yes.
But let's have a conversation about this vaccine.
Let's talk about it.
This vaccine that was not well researched, that everything looked planned, from the way the virus was released in Wuhan, to the way the world was locked down, to cessation. Everything was programmed. It was a whole program. Such that if I, Mary, went to my Facebook page and put up a simple garlic therapy, it was marked as misinformation. A simple steaming, guys, if you steam your faces, you're not going to suffer the corona effects. That was marked as misinformation. Now we are past, I wouldn't say we are really past, we are actually at the heat of the effects of corona.
Yes.
This is a conversation Kenyans need to have. Japan has already proven that this was not a vaccine. They've gone to court, they've sued Pfizer. You go to Netherlands right now, I'm telling you, Lynn, Bill Gates is wanted for a criminal case in Netherlands. It's not misinformation, that's information. It's been proven by doctors back and forth, and we know now this was not a what?
A vaccine.
It was not a vaccine, it was something else. So we need to be the first African country. South Africa has put their fingers in this whole issue. We need to have this conversation, entire conversation about what COVID vaccine was. All said and done, it's proven time and again, this was an mRNA agent that they were injecting in people. The name actually corona vaccine is a wrong description of what people are being injected with. We know people have died. Many people, Lynn, have died out of the vaccine itself. Many people today are maimed. Lynn, I cannot explain to you. My friends, my family members who have developed back problems, serious back problems, people went for surgery. I have my lady friends, many lady friends, periods are affected. You're bleeding for 2 weeks or a month. You're having what this name they call for when there's a name they call for people who are suffering from painful menstruation. It's become a pandemic right now. Every other woman is suffering, has a problem with menstruation. I know friends, like one-on-one, who have nerve issues. Nerve issues where even you can't step on the floor, that you really have serious pains even on your feet. Nerves affecting your waist, your feet.
Your feet.
I am telling you things. I have a friend.
Because imagine, sorry.
It's okay.
I've had people complaining, my feet hurt, my back.
Thank you.
Mpaka I was like, wait, what?
The side effects, that's a conversation we must be bold enough to talk about. The side effects people are suffering from the vaccine. And people keep asking you, and medics or people who want to think the other way, how do you know it is the vaccine? This is the only thing I did out of my normal life.
Yes.
Like I've lived for 30 years, and this is the vaccine I took, and things changed. Then the immune is so affected. Homazishi, mtu anapata homa that runs for months. The immunes are affected. When we have this, and what I really, there are a lot of questions, Lynn, that I have. We never collected data. When we injected people with the coronavirus, the only thing you got on the MOH website, you got a certificate, right? Which had a barcode, like you could scan when you're traveling.
Yes.
How does this government or this African or Kenyan government only give you a barcode, but then they didn't even provide like a data form in case you suffered from a side effect? Fill it here. Come back to our website and fill this information. There is no way of collecting information. But I can clearly tell you that what we are calling the corona vaccine has killed a lot of people, has maimed a lot of people. Maimed, I'm telling you, maimed. Have we even talked about infertility?
No.
Do a sample on gynas. Many people nowadays are suffering from, I can't conceive. Low sperm count on men. Oh my goodness. This was not the normal of how life used to be. Now, when you think about all these things, and it is public knowledge, science documents proven right now, that this was not a vaccine, it was an mRNA agent. And then we know this is the same mRNA agent they're injecting in animals. Okay? So it's because now people are saying, no, I don't want to be injected. They want to inject you by force because you have to eat meat. You have to drink milk. You can imagine our children will be injected. They will eat food that is mRNA injected from childhood. It's a depopulation agenda, Lynn.
There.
Straightforward, a depopulation agenda.
And they go ahead and call someone a conspiracy.
A conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
Then we are linking, that's why when we talk about food sovereignty, it touches on all these things. Then they legalize GMOs. After doing all this to our protein source, which is animal, we eat meat, that's our protein source as human beings. Then they allow GMOs in Kenya. Then they go to Parliament. Then they pass the Seeds and Varieties Act Bill, which is an act of Parliament, and they say you can't share seeds. What are they doing? In simple terms, they are taking the power of food control and giving it to one person, Bill Gates.
And then he says that, there is now artificial meat has been proven to be more.
I don't know why people would think we are stupid. We are, sorry for using that word, but we are not stupid. Human beings can see through, I don't want to use strong words, but you can see there is something wrong.
You can see through bull.
That's what that's what I wanted to say. You can actually see through this bull. Because now when you do all that, what are you doing? Me, I am calling upon every farmer. Easy vitus are free. Stop it.
But why because we are here now, why is Bill Gates always so interested in Africa and Africa matters?
He's a psychopath. I'll just tell you. He's a representation of the globalists, the people, the proponents of the New World Order, that are so engrossed in ruling the world. They are so engrossed in controlling humanity that feel they are actually gods in their own space. Their conversations, Lynn, we must be able to come and talk about. When anyone comes and tells you that HIV came from a monkey, they need to slap themselves back to reality. Go back to the lab. Go back to information. Go and read books. It was purely a depopulation agenda. But God has a way of sustaining Africans. God has a way of making us survive and thrive in all these things. But the issue is they want to depopulate. They want to implement the New World Agenda. And in the African continent, Kenya is on the east, South Africa is on the south, Nigeria is on the west, and then they have Egypt
in the north.
If those 4 countries embrace the New World Order, the entire Africa is going to move into the New World Order agenda. Ile reasoning watu wako nayo, they say, why would anyone want to kill people? Yes, they want to kill people. They want to depopulate. They don't even hide it. They talk about it every single day. That information is very much available. They want to reduce the population, and they think the biggest population that needs to be reduced is the African population.
So why do our politicians act as zombies, as if they don't know these things? And what are they doing to protect their citizens?
Now, that's a question sometimes I ask myself, Lynn, so many times. But the love of money, especially in this country, is the cause of all our problems. The love that our politicians have for money. A Kenyan politician mentioned the money. You've had even members of parliament being bought for 10,000 shillings. 10,000 shillings. And they'll push a bill that they know is coming to finish the people. I sit down and ask myself, I have so much information about food sovereignty, food security, GMO. I have a lot of information about those things. Does it mean our members of parliament do not even do bits of research? They know. But the love of money, the greed that they have, they are literally selling this country to the butcher. Because that's what the globalists are. When they inject children, they inject animals, they take over our food. They want to reduce our life expectancy. A couple of years back, a Kenyan was living up to 70-something years. Now, what is our life expectancy? It's so low. It is really come low. People are developing cancer at 35. 20-something-year-olds, like the problems that we never had. When we grew up, Lynn, mazishi was a big deal. Mazishi was a big deal. People never used to die You know, like in the village, mtu akikufa, mtaenda nyinyi wote, because people never used to die. It was 10 or so burials in a year.
Yeah.
In the entire village when I grew up in my days. I'm not even 50. I'm below 50. But you could, yani, what am I going to say? Death rate today as compared to 20 years ago is incomparable. Because there's so much that is being done to reduce our life expectancy as the Kenyan people. So when you see now the kind of vaccinations, I tell people, at the beginning of this year, we had a deworming program for children. A national deworming program for children. It was pushed through the Ministry of Health. I get people in my inbox, Lynn, the side effects on children for deworming was a disaster. But the Ministry of Health doesn't go back and say, we need to check what this was. Because what is going through information of a vaccine, even the smallest, even a 10% side effect warrants for an investigation.
Yes.
Even 10%. Let's pull this medicine. Let's pull this. You know, they keep saying, hakuna dawa ina side effects. No. That is playing with human life, which is only given by God. Don't play with life. Don't play with your body, because it's only God who gives you. If Aduomi, I have lived all my years, Lynn, I have never known that a deworming medication can put a child in ICU. Those cases happened in the beginning of the year. Serious cases of side effects. Rashes. I have a parent who sent me a photo. The kid had wounds all over the back. Atangeka chini. Deworming. Let's put it forward. Then they come and say, now we are doing what? Polio vaccine. They roll it. I do not have a problem with these vaccines being rolled out, but listen to the parents. When parents come on Instagram and asking, guys, did your children react? Does the Ministry of Health collect that data? Do they have a structure, a framework of collecting the data? Then we do like a first phase, we do a second phase of the same. But no one is listening to people with side effects. Let's vaccinate. Let's not be anti-vaxxers. Listen to people that are talking about side effects. Tujasonga sana. Now we are on the cows. We are on the sheep. We are on the goats. We are going to have a nationwide, we are going to vaccinate 22 million herds of cattle and sheep and goats. Surely, Lynn. Let's just pull back a bit. Let's think. What is the agenda with all these things? We have other bigger problems in this country, Lynn. If today you are asked by the government, tukusaidia na nini? Please, pay the fees first. Take the children, pay the fees, forget about the vaccines. You know. Yeah. What is your priority in terms of problems as a Kenyan?
Ama tafutieni watu job.
Exactly. Even tafutieni watu job. You know, don't ship our children to UAE for house girls and watchmen. Create jobs in the country. Those are our immediate problems. Our immediate problems are not vaccinating cows. No, those are not our immediate problems. So when anyone sits you down and they want to tell you that the government loves you so much that they're vaccinating you 10 times in a year, you need to pull yourself back and actually audit what exactly is going on. So me, when you asked me, Mary, should we vaccinate the animals? Hell no. Do not vaccinate your cows. The same case I tell people, do not go for free vaccinations. And more the reason why we shouldn't do this, it is because let's first audit the biggest scam in the human race, which is the COVID vaccine. Let's audit this first. Let's have answers to this vaccine first before we vaccinate more.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
We are not anti-vaxxers. We just want to, let's audit what exactly happens.
Umesahau mpox.
Ndio hiyo
also
inakuja.
coming.
Ndio hiyo inakuja.
But the stories za mpox zimefika wapi?
Let me tell you something, and you will be so shocked. You will be so shocked to learn. It was a series of vaccinations that was supposed to happen under the New World Order. COVID was the first one. But now, I will tell you, the proponents of mass vaccinations, that's what they call it in their documents. It's called mass vaccination of the human race. The COVID vaccine failed big time. You know what the COVID vaccine did? Iliamsha watu. The COVID vaccine has woken humanity all over. In their documents that I have gone through, the mpox vaccine that they are supposed to roll out is actually supposed to be taking care of the effects of the COVID vaccine.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So they knew what was going to be the side effects of the COVID vaccine. So once the human race or the populations are suffering this vaccine, we will bring the mpox vaccine in the name of fixing the side effects of the corona vaccine, the COVID vaccine. That's what it is. That is what it is. But now people have woken up. And Lynn, out of a lot of research I have done since 2019, corona, which was a virus, became weaker. Viruses become weak as they exist. So ile homa ilikuwa mbaya January, hata haiwezi kuonyesha mtoto in December. The longer it exists, the weaker
it gets.
It gets. So it becomes non-existent. You know, coronaviruses are so many. There are so many. Hapo ndio homa iko, nini, flu, zote ziko hapo. But they become weaker as they exist. Alafu zinapotea. So what they are calling the mpox vaccine, it's a vaccine they intended to roll out to mitigate the effects of the COVID vaccine side effects.
Hey.
That was their entire plan. So when anyone is being told, like, you can see how they have programmed the whole of this thing. It is so obvious what they intend to do. And I think it is time human beings say no to this bullshit. No.
Oh.
Just sit back and say no.
By the Mbona Africa inakanga, it's the last resort for so many people. You are here, you are giving immunity. By the way, why was Bill Gates, the foundation, why were they given immunity? Do you know?
Lynn, I will tell you the kind of atrocities Bill Gates is doing in this country. The kind of atrocities that are happening in this country through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I don't even have words for it. So why is getting immunity? It is because they know the kind of lawsuits that are going to come out of their actions. Isn't it in Kenya where he is having a GMO mosquito project?
It is.
It's here in Kenya. So they've taken mosquitoes in the lab. They're genetically modifying those mosquitoes. And they are saying, of course, they use very nice words and they say these mosquitoes are supposed to sort of, ikikuuma, hautapata. But the mosquitoes are injecting mRNA in people's bodies. Where such a project was done, mortality rates went way high. Bill Gates is the one single owner of most GMO patents. So when we talk about GMO, it is him and his foundation. You saw him the other day, he says he's developed a lot of interest in Kenyan millet. When he says that, he's taking that millet, take it to the lab, alter, and develop a seed from it. And what our government should have done, what our members of parliament should have done, because in our constitution, indigenous seeds is protected. Because we have a dysfunctional parliament, they don't look at the laws that are helping the people. So we have a vacuum. We needed a bill in parliament protecting our seeds, which has never been drafted, which has never been passed. Maybe there was no money in that. But now, our cabinet, in 13th of October 2022, immediately this government came into office in a cabinet sitting. They allowed GMO. Many people are not able to connect the dots, but you can connect these dots. You can connect the agriculture bills, the GMO, you can
the vaccine.
You can actually connect them to one person, Bill Gates. Okay. So now our government allows GMOs. I was watching the history of allowing GMOs. You know what our president said? Ati kwani ukikula hiyo GMO utamea matiti? Kwani miguu itang'oka? Si South Africa wamefanya, US wamefanya. Those were his words. We had a member of parliament, cabinet, Moses Kuria. He said in a public meeting, there are very many ways to kill Kenyans. This is just one of them. And people castigated him saying, mtu hajui kuongea. He said it. You go and check. There are very many ways to kill Kenyans. This is just one of them. He was just taking that opportunity to loudly say what he knew was the truth in his heart. You saw Trump won the American election. Yes. And one of the biggest reasons he won, it was because of JFK Kennedy. Yes. Because of this man has pushed a health agenda, an anti-vaccine agenda, because of what these things have done to the population.
From day one.
Like, you stand and fight and say no.
And when he was fighting the COVID, the vaccines and all, the people were actually calling him an anti-vax.
Exactly. A conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
He's not researched, but this man has even paid, gone to the lab, gone to court. The American population wants to step away from every single sickness. Alzheimer's disease, autism, diabetes, cancer is all related to GMO. Tusifichane, it's all related to GMO. And that is the reference our president is giving for a justification for us to allow GMOs in Kenya. Okay?
Yes.
Now, look how the puzzle is just not working in this situation. You allow GMO in Kenya without public participation. Hakuna Mkenya aliulizwa. He didn't even go and, let's just, for a moment, let's see what Kenyans are thinking and feeling about this thing.
Yes. But what do we know?
Nothing. As Kilimo cha Haki, we collected data on GMO last month on a sample of 1,000 Kenyan people. 95% of Kenyans said, no, we don't want GMOs. It was just a small sample of 2,000 people who collected data. We have that data, I'll share it with you. And I was like, so Kenyans actually know about GMO, and they categorically do not want anything to do with GMOs. So imagine if our government respected our voices and asked us, what do you guys feel about this? Kenyans would tell him, we do not want this, we do not want this. So when I'm looking at these things, Lynn, and I'm saying, God is giving us hope in a few of these things. There was a GMO case that happened last month. It didn't go very well. The judge did not even hear. He threw out the entire application.
Here in Kenya?
Yeah, in Nyahururu. There was a GMO case by the Greenpeace Africa. They are a group of Kenyan farmers that went to court against GMO. The case was thrown to Nyahururu small court, you can imagine. They had it online. A whole GMO case was had online. And presenting all the applications, on the day of hearing, the judge threw out the case. He didn't even go through what these people were talking about. Now there's an appeal at the High Court of the same. But the conversations we are not having, they make, have you found yourself in situations whereby people want to make you have conversations that are, conversations that are irrelevant. Unajua, like, mnaongelelea vitu hata hazi make sense. Our government has put us to that situation. We keep talking about some bit of nonsense and leave conversations that matter. So are you getting that? Let's just talk about this nonsense here. Let's leave this conversation. So they want us to have conversation of, let's allow GMO because we are food insecure. That is a very shoddy conversation. Let's actually have a conversation about what GMO can do to your body. That's the conversation we should be having. Let's have science papers about cancer cases, epidemic of cancers in relationship to GMOs. Let's talk about how you cannot plant a GMO seed without using pesticides, which we want to step away from. So when you look at these things, then you ask, oh my goodness, in this government, does anyone listen? Does anyone listen in this government what they are doing to the population. Because what they are doing to the population, it's exterminating the population. They want to reduce our population through our food, through the vaccines. That's what they want to do. Because do you know why we survived the COVID?
Tell me.
Let me tell you. I am sure you saw. Of course, Melinda was not divorced from Bill Gates then. She stood and she said, African bodies will be collected in body bags. She stood and said, we will be collecting bodies in body bags. But in the entire of the globe, in the entire world, do you know which continent was not affected by COVID?
Africa.
It's Africa. Immune yetu iko poa. We have a strong immune. You have a cold today, no medication. Tomorrow your nose is dry. We have a strong immune system. Do you know what gives us a strong immune system? Our food. It's the kind of food we eat. And I remember, I don't know, in the last conversation we had, I told you, food is medicine.
Yes.
So we only talk about food for nutrition. No. There's a whole entire conversation of food being medicinal. And that's a place people need to look into. Now, because we eat traditional foods, we drink our millet porridge. We roast our indigenous cassavas. We roast our bananas. We don't fry our food, we boil our food and take it. Our immune has been very good. That's why the effects of COVID were really low on the African population. So walikaa chini wakasema, you know what? Let's go for the food. Let's go for the food. So that's why I am calling upon every Kenyan, protect your indigenous food. Be very careful about what you eat.
Yes.
Hiyo ni dawa yako, by the way. The money you're spending on your insurance policy for health, the kind of effort you put on your insurance, on your what, put that effort on what you put in your body. Be very specific about what you eat. Go to indigenous foods. And now what we are doing with you, Lynn, here, we want to empower the farmer. We want to empower the population. And we want to tell the people, when you go to the shops, when you're going to shop, buy indigenous food. Support the farmer. Once you support the farmer, they're encouraged to keep what? Farming. Let me say something about the vaccines. And Lynn, I'm just hoping, first of all, I'm encouraging you to do a show on COVID vaccine. I'm really encouraging you to do this because mainstream media will not touch that. Go there, have this conversation. Get victims. Get victims on this couch. People that can talk about what happened to their bodies. You will open a Pandora box of information. And what I'm going to say about vaccines, zote, human being vaccine, animal vaccine, let's sit back. Let's just sit back and audit vaccines. Let's ask the hard questions. You know those questions you ask and then you're called an anti-vaxxer? Let's ask those questions.
Let's be called the anti-vaxxers.
Let's be called the anti-vaxxers.
Let's be called the conspiracy theorists.
Thank you.
Be called. But then I read somewhere, if you see someone calling you an anti-vaxxer or a conspiracy theory, they know you know. They know you know.
Let's not be afraid of being branded a conspiracy theorist. You know those things that we discuss and then we're like, oh my goodness, let's have those conversations because there's something to look in there. There's something to look in there. Let's go in there. Let's have that conversation. And if you ask me, the biggest flop in humanity, the biggest scam in humanity was the COVID vaccine.
Period.
Please. Before we go to mpox, before we go to the cows, before we go to the children, to the HPV in schools, let's have that conversation. We analyze that conversation, kabisa?
Yes.
Tutajua. Let's have a conversation, Lynn, of why a Ministry of Health officials will walk in a high school and vaccinate a full class of children without the parents' consent. That thing broke my heart in the COVID days. The Ministry of Health officials went to high schools, class. They inoculated children without the parents' consents. Let's have those kind of conversations, Lynn. And right now, these children, I know children that passed away. They were vaccinated and died. But imagine how much you despise a parent that you don't even ask them that we are going to inoculate your children, your child. Okay. At what point have these vaccines become so important, Lynn, they're never given in hospitals? I think someone needs to go to court and stop vaccinations on the streets. You know, you see the polio vaccines in estates. Keep the vaccines in hospitals. Because in hospitals, you're able to collect data. You're able to know the age of the child, put it in a system. You're able to know if they react. Are you getting where I'm coming from? So we are having vaccines being rolled out in churches,
the street,
in schools, in the streets,
in estates.
In the estates. Oh my goodness. No, we need to pull back and talk as people. When did this thing become this important? Such that it is, of course, they'll come and tell you public health outbreaks. How far is Nairobi from Kakuma, for instance? Because they say polio comes from refugee camps. You know, all the same, we cannot accept science that we can't question.
I love that.
We should be able to question science.
We should actually be able to have conversations around it.
Exactly. And let me tell you, Lynn, I told you our education system was a total mess programming us. So you sit there and then you start suffering from inferiority complex, thinking, oh, I'm not a doctor, oh, I'm not a nurse, I can't ask this. No, you have common sense. Because God gave you common sense. Ask, when you have those questions in your heart, ask them. Okay? So there's a lot of illegalities around vaccination programs happening in this country. A lot of illegalities.
But I'm happy people are talking about it.
We need to talk about this.
Yes, we need to talk about these things.
We cannot allow our children to be treated as guinea pigs. Actually, you know what is happening in Kenya right now? We are guinea pigs for vaccines. Guinea pigs, like a proper vaccine, any proper vaccine does not go to the masses without a 10-year study. It's studied as a small sample of people for 2 years, a trial. There's a whole process with studying and understanding vaccines. And there's something I will mention here.
Go on.
People trust the World Health Organization. This is an organization that is like now a demigod. People trust, World Health Organization, they've rolled out this vaccine, they said it's okay, and we all run into it. But is the World Health Organization as clean as we would want to believe? Who funds these projects under the WHO? Most of these projects, Lynn, are funded by the big pharma. So, if WHO is going to roll out a vaccine, but they've gotten 80% of funding on that project by the company that actually manufactures that vaccine, what does that tell you? Conflict of interest. Conflict of interest straight on.
Yes.
If the Bill and Melinda Gates is the biggest fund of the WHO that is rolling out a vaccine that comes from a company who Gates is the biggest shareholder, what are you trying to tell me? Conflict of interest. So when I'm telling you we need to sit down and have these conversations, this WHO that we trust is actually killing human beings in the name of health. Because every single project under the WHO needs to be studied. The HPV that is being rolled out in Africa, why they roll it out and they actually brand those vaccines for African use. Did you even know in the COVID vaccines, there were some specifically for the African market? It was there on it. I was so keen on these things. It was written for African population.
So yetu waliongeza dose.
This was not for Japan. This is not for Europe.
Lazima ingeongezwa dose, like.
Okay. So, you know, these are conversations we need to be able to have about these vaccinations. Me, if you ask me today, if I was supposed to give a voice on people's health, I would withdraw every vaccine and restudy them. Let's restudy these vaccines.
Yes.
Why would a child who has just been born vaccinated? And why have we programmed the human population to think we can only prevent ourselves from diseases through vaccines only? This is what we call your immune system. You know, your immune is a very strong vaccine on its own. If today you get a cold, maybe hata umechelewa, you don't even take the medication. You know what your body is doing? It's fighting that cold. What actually happens? The antibodies in your body become stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yes.
Fine, maybe tomorrow or the day after you'll buy some medicines and take it. But you know what happens when you get another cold maybe next year? The effects will be way less because your antibodies ziko juu already. So your body has a way of fighting diseases. Okay? There's also what we call the herd immunity. When in a population, they develop immune against a particular problem. And then there's something else, Lynn, I want to us to talk about. A lot of these diseases people are suffering are lab manufactured. And did I mention here, in the Africa, when you walk to the streets right now and ask a Kenyan or an African, where did HIV come from? What are they going to tell you?
Monkey.
Monkey. No. HIV was developed in a lab, patented. And if you pick your phone, you can actually get an HIV patent. So someone sits in the lab and develops a disease to affect humanity. The same case with coronavirus, the one that we suffered. It was developed in a lab and patented. And I will ask people, can you always go and check where these diseases come from? When a disease has been developed in a lab and has been patented, it's owned. It's owned by someone.
People own diseases.
People own the disease. And they collect money from the diseases. Okay. So, when we are talking about vaccines against diseases, we need to have a moral, honest conversation.
Develop the disease.
Develop the disease.
Then develop the vaccine to handle the disease.
Thank you. Thank you. There are books out there, Lynn. There are scientists that have died. There's information out there. Cancer has 100% treatment. But anyone who tries to get to it or bring it to the public, they don't see the light of the day. Okay? HIV has 100% antidote, which of course, you know the history of HIV. Walianza na ARVs zilikuwa zinajaa bakuli. Right now, zimepunguka. ARVs now like to 2 or 3 pills. If you go to the US, the kind of ARVs people get in the US is not what they get in Kenya. One injection that can be an ARV for you for a year. What does that tell you? Develop a disease, pump medication with humanity, rip from that particular disease. So when you're telling me like, take vaccines as gospel truth, you know, just take vaccines as gospel truth. We're kunyweni vaccine and you don't want me to question that vaccine. Then you do not want us as human beings to have honest conversations about these vaccines. So when our president comes and talks about cows, about what? No. Let's pull back. Let's pull back. First of all, don't take those vaccines. Do not take those vaccines because a lot of questions have not been answered around that whole vaccination program.
And our government has that. They will support something and have like a 14-file document. But now when you go to open the document to see exactly what they are talking about, there's nothing. There's, like you remember yesterday, the president saying he's rolling out 100 million to help in the fight against femicide. How, my friend, how?
Is it the money?
The money is here.
Yes.
How do you intend to do that?
Exactly.
Which organization will do what? What is supposed to be done where?
We love patching our problems. We do not like sorting our problems. We like patching our problems. The problem maybe was not actually even the money. Maybe the problem was even the police force. Maybe the problem was the way those cases are handled.
Yes.
How many cases have come to book and have been prosecuted? How many people have been brought to book because of this and this and this?
We have the whole Kware massacre. It has not been
Thank you.
solved yet.
Thank you.
They tried to bring a scapegoat somewhere saying this is the person that has done this. And they knew they were lying. And they will still not solve that. But they are supposed to tell us, I am committing this. Guys, vaccines are good. Let's have them. Oh, yada, yada, yada.
No.
I was saying,
No.
I'm happy we've gotten to an age or a period where people are asking
The questions.
Yes. And they are waiting for the answers. Because it's one thing to ask, it's another thing to have the patience to wait for those answers.
Thank you.
So I love that once again we are talking about vaccines.
Thank you.
You know, obviously, if I'm not wrong, they are going to, what is it called, censor part of the comments here. That's what they did with our first episode with Dr. Wahome on vaccines. Hopefully they won't. I wrote to YouTube, I asked them why they are censoring the comment section. They are yet to give me feedback, but I keep saying we must continue having this conversation.
We must have this conversation.
So that if something happened to us, we know we tried and we did the best we could.
Our future generations, even though we don't do it for ourselves, we are doing it for the future generation. They depend on this. When we say that we don't sort our problems, we love patching our problems. You know, this is a problem, but you don't want to go deep down into this problem. And, you know, I sit here, my goodness, I just hope these governments or these government officials, and actually, I wouldn't even say our problem is actually entirely the government. It's bigger part, the bureaucrats in the government. You know those people who sit in ministries, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, those bureaucrats are one of our biggest problems. That's what I would say.
All right. So, that's okay. We can jump into the next topic. Let me wind up this, guys, so that we also give the next conversation the time it deserves. So let us know your thoughts on the comment section about this whole vaccine, issue. And I always say, remember, you have to be able to learn, unlearn and relearn. There's that which was taught to us that we are finding out this has been a lie all through, and now it's our time to relearn and unlearn new ways of doing things. All right, so I'm ending this episode here because we are about to jump into a cash crop conversation. Remember when I did the intro, I said there are so many things we used to have in this country that we do not have, and I wanted us to be able to find out from Kadomi what happened, right? She always has this beautiful information. So see you for this one particular, see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Okay? All right.